Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to take a look at this. So we're talking about ages, age signatures here. Talk about this and abstract and distortions and how to just keep some familiarity so you can still have the macabre. Then skin tones here. Sorry about my little mouse. And this one. Okay, so for this, what I see here is that, I see an angry girl with a cat. If that's what you wanted, good. If that's not what you wanted, then we're going to have to fix that. So filter, liquify. The first and most important thing about this issue here, I know I'm using a Wacom. I destroyed my pen, and that's it. So I'm going to go back to Huion in like a second. This is Abu's Wacom. I didn't go buy one. It's just Abu's bamboo. I'm just getting rid of some of these really, really strong features. So she can still have this kind of nose, but she can't have this kind of nose and have a long nose. Something about the female beauty signature still has to be there. The age has to be there. The units for making sure that it still reads as a younger girl. The dome head right here. The circular dome in the head. Really, really important. Then you've got the angry eyebrows. So I'm not sure what you intended. I actually didn't even read it. I probably should have read the blurb that you guys submit with your with your submissions, but I was just really late. I just wanted to make sure. So she looks like she's, oh my God, like who asked you? Who asked you? Who puts buttons there? Yeah, so she looks like she's scowling or she's angry. So I'm just going to put it back into neutral. That's how I'm going to critique. That's how I always critique. I put it into neutral, and you guys can just adjust thereafter. If that's what you wanted, then good. If it's not, then you can keep the angry features, but I'm still going to address why she looks masculine. And it's to do a lot with just the bone structure in the chin, the anatomy of her turning around. Back really doesn't just widen up like that. If we're seeing the side and we're seeing her shoulder, and her collar is going to move all the way up there, then we're not going to see more of her back because she's turned. You need a little bit more definition here for what's happening with the dress. So you can have a little bit of a silhouette behind her and just have this billow a little bit. And then the white space here, all this white stuff you can use to outline the shape of her body. Don't sexualize it. Don't give her like a booty and stuff like that. She's supposed to be a young girl, so no puberty yet. Alright, so I'm just adjusting this, raising the hairline a little bit to add more dome to the head, to make it more feminine and girly. And I'm just tucking that chin in because the jawline was really moved out. And after I do that, I'm tucking out the lips. So, oh shit. I still have that Liquify problem, you guys. Someone mentioned that it needs a software upgrade for my NVIDIA graphics card. I have a 980, so if you guys know whether or not I'm like qualified, what's qualified? What's the word? If I'm eligible? No, if I'm, I don't know what the word is, but if my computer needs it, please let me know. Alright, so I'm raising the shoulder just a little bit, and I have no idea why a girl would turn around holding a cute little cat surrounded by blue skies and white clouds to be angry. I'm just going to give her a little bit of happiness. Just a touch. Okay. Alright, so before, after. Do you see how masculine she looked before and kind of shocked and angry? So before, after, before, after. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of touch up the hairline a little bit, just blur it out. It's a little bit too in the way. And then what I'm going to do is just find that silhouette for her body. Not too many curves, just something delicate. And then we can use that as a chance to bring back some definition, because the dress was just like the most basic shape, and it really didn't make much sense. So what you do when you have a translucent piece of fabric or a translucent piece of clothing is that you first of all decide where the hot spot is. So if the sun is coming from the top, then the top of that dress is going to be... Oops, I don't know where the buttons are on this bamboo. Thank you, Abu, for letting me borrow it. I'm sorry I'm talking shit about your tablet. Come on. Okay, so the hot spot would be somewhere up here. Look at that, isn't that pretty? And then you don't just leave it like this, because this is dumb. Well, this is dumb. Me saying this dumb is not a very good explanation. You don't leave it like this because shadows aren't this crisp. It has to be like a perfect placement. Everything has to be equal distance. You have to be close up. The light has to be very sharp and nearby. So because the fabric is moving, we have to distort the shadow. But it being stupid is also, like, you know, a valid way of critiquing something. No, not at all. Okay, so we're getting a nice little silhouette. See that? It's very pretty. We got some of the body, but we're not, you know, over defining it. I'm just going to choose some more, like, areas here. Okay, and then just to unify her with her environment, what I'm going to do is just start bringing in some of that rim light and subsurface in her hair. And the same thing for Kitty Cat. Okay, so might need to zoom up. I'm still not used to using this tablet. See that? Crap. What is that? Why does my, like, pen pressure just suddenly disappear? I forget this stuff. Forget why Wacom's do this. Oh, Lord in heaven. Oh, God. Okay. Oh, my gosh. Guys, do you know what I have to do in order to fix this? Oh, God, what am I going to do? I can't keep critiquing like this. I have double click distance off. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this today. I'm just going to keep control Z every time it happens. Okay, so another way to unify her with her environment is to bring some of those bright spots, you know, on her face. So there's obviously one right over here. There's a little bit on her lashes. Restart services. Oh, God, that again? I forgot about that. Oh, my God. I forgot about restart services. Right, a little bit on the lashes. See that? Does a lot. And then there's the little peach fuzz that we all have. So don't judge me. That we all have just over here on the cheeks. We all have it. It's not just me. It's not just me that's hairy. Okay. And I'm just carrying that over. It's just the smallest amount. It's not an outline, so chill. Don't try to do this with like a full thick line. That's not what I'm recommending. Now I'm just going to find some hot spots. Hot spots is just when the sun really gets to that area. Like when the sun can really reach that area. Okay, another really cool thing is just the cast shadow of the head that you can add here. Of course we're blurring away after. Deselect. See that? That's really nice. And then I'm just gonna go ham on the cat. Okay. You really need more subsurface on the cat's ears, like a ton more. Probably a shift into pink as well. I'm so sorry, I sound so tired. I'm so sorry, guys. There's lots of night hiking and staying up late. It's lots of fun. Oh, what happened? Okay, it's too big. And a little bit on the nose. The nose is kind of a big deal because it's very oily and it sticks out a lot, so you might want to exaggerate it. Even if there's no hot spot linked to that area, you might just want to throw in a little bit extra on the nose. And then one big sweeping, kind of like, I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, maybe with soft light layer. Normal. Yeah, soft light is much better. And I'm just using the light color here. And there's going to be a lot of subsurface just behind her head. So where her skull ends and her hair starts, after that point, it is no longer skull. So that means skull is opaque. Opaque means the light can't go through it. So right over here, you see something like that? So the hair stopped being a part of the skull and started doing its own thing. And so that means that it's more susceptible to subsurface scattering. And so what I'm going to do is choose, actually it's not all going to be equally see-through because there's going to be areas that are a little bit more thick. Just like that. Just a touch more. I don't like the way you frame the canvas at all. It's a terrible frame. I'm just going to find some more of those hot spots here. Screw Wacom Squad. A little bit more intensity here. You kind of made the cat feel like it's smiling with that little dimple. So I recommend you get rid of the dimple. Because it feels like the cat is smiling, you know? That's kind of just thrown off the cat. So I know it's like a little beauty mark on the cat here, a little spot. So I'm just going to get rid of the mouth so it stops reading as one of those. And a little bit more rim light here on the face. So that's what happens when you're drowning in sunlight. There's going to be extreme changes, sudden changes in like the values and the way the values climb, because all of a sudden where there was no feed before, suddenly there's this high light feed and the object completely changes its behavior to the light. So for a while the forehead stretched on in its shadow until the light suddenly started, in our perspective, it was drowning the other side that we don't see. And then all of this light here bounces back up. Bounces on the bottom of her neck. Just over here. On the base of the hair. Does anyone have any questions about this piece? I don't like the way you did the collar here. It's got no form to it. So I'm just going to cover it with some hair. Okay, maybe I shouldn't do that. but I shouldn't recommend it. Okay, and then I'm just going to bring in some more subsurface scattering just under that, right there. Just traveling on the surface of the skull under the hair, you know? Really, really nice. I can keep going because I love settings like this. I love when there's extreme changes. So I'm going to get that white color and I'm going to just start drawing in every little external flyaway hair. I'm not drawing internal hairs. I've covered how you can draw external flyaway hairs if you need to. But yeah, anyone have any questions? Just going to follow up with a blur tool. You can't just have raw brush strokes for flyaway hairs. You have to follow up with a blur tool. And then sponge, saturate. So she feels a little bit more like a girl. It feels like we're actually coming from, you know, where you intended this piece to go, which is, you know, we're still doing the whole girl turning around with a cat thing, but at least she doesn't look like a man, and at least she doesn't look angry. If she's thinking about something and it's something serious, that's understandable, so you don't have to give her a smile. But I gave her something a little bit more neutral. And then one more really important, super duper awesome fun thing to do is just get soft light and just actually draw in the light. So this is tricky because you don't want to do this in the wrong way, which is actually leave it in its raw state like that. You gotta kind of put it behind the character. But because I don't have layers, I can't do that. You also have to work with a really, really low opacity. So I might have to go back and erase away at her. Yeah, a tile canvas is a square canvas that has no compositional purpose at all in life. It just doesn't know where it's going. It's kind of just went into college with just like an undecided major. You have to keep some areas dark after you do this drowning light because it's still a silhouette in certain areas. I'm kind of unsure about the shape here of the back side. So this was actually, I believe, a student of mine from a long ago. Her name is Scylla. And she was a great student in private tutoring. So she perfected faces. But not so sure about why you're hiding that hand, Scylla. Then again, I never really gave you hand studies, did I? Okay, so we have before, after. Let me see if I can snap that in. Before, a little angry. After, a little bit more involved in light source. The canvas was, yeah, so there you go. Before, after. Does anybody have any questions? Istebrak, I always have trouble deciding on shadows when someone is in the sky like that. How much does being in the sky diffuse shadows, cast shadows? You have cast shadows no matter where you go. You can go up into like the last layer of the atmosphere. You'll still have cast shadows. You'll have cast shadows in space. It's just it just depends on what you're nearby, what you're trying to represent in the story as well. If you want something that's a little less dark, something that's a bit more joyous and blissful, you decrease the amount of darkness you have, but you can have a nice sharp deep blue cast shadow all the way up in the sky. It doesn't mean that there's no cast shadows. Just because you're a little bit closer to the sun doesn't mean that the sun can no longer cast shadows on you because you're so close to it, that the sun just drowns you in the light. Yeah, that's not enough distance. We barely did like a decimal of closing the space between us and the sun so that we feel like, you know, oh, we're so much closer to it. We're in the sky. There's no cast shadows. It doesn't work like that. You'll have a cast shadow anywhere. It just depends on what story you're trying to tell. Depends on the color of the object. If it's white, But yes, there are cast shadows. How do you decide? Well, there's that story aspect, and then there is the fact that just surrounding environment. If you're gonna have large cloud pieces beside it, right beside the character, you might want to diffuse some cast shadows. But cast shadows are always a wonderful way to dress up your painting, so always see if you can pull them off as much as possible. Just don't let them be too dark. If it's a sunny and joyous kind of beach scene, you don't want like really, really deep cast shadows. Things are very diffused, and remember that the cast shadow belongs to the object receiving it. If it's a light object, if it's sand, if it's something nearby, then you'll have to raise the value of that object. Okay? So we cast a shadow on her shoulder, and it looks just fine, but we diffused it because we're trying to tell a story that's a little bit more soft and angelic. Maybe like it's someone dreamt of her or something. Okay. No. Flat. Save. Yes. Okay, so for this, this artist here is a complete polar opposite of what we just saw. Is trying to represent something scary. In order for you to pull off the grotesque, you have to make the face familiar in some aspects. Because if you're just gonna distort everything, okay, it's just a big ass dumbass monster just chasing me. Okay, dumbass, keep chasing me. It doesn't really scare the audience. But if it's someone familiar, someone that they know, something that they know is real, something with proportionate kind of features in certain areas, you're like, Jesus, this was a human once. It makes it a bit more scary. Okay, so you've completely blackened out his eyes. You gave him big teeth, gave him a big nose. You just, did a lot. You kind of went for it. But for some reason, he's not scaring me, and it's not really creeping me out. And that's because we need some aspect left behind that makes him feel familiar. So I'm just fixing some of these like droopy features that you have here. You also just completely drowned him in shadow. You need some areas that are a little bit more open. So we started there. I'm actually just going to diffuse the, desaturate. Where are you? The teeth. They're way too yellow. They're really trying to insult this guy. He's disgusting. Just look at how yellow his teeth are. Okay, I'm also going to desaturate wherever the light hits. Just give that clammy look. Familiar human look. He's still blue. He's just not the Cookie Monster blue. Cookie Monster's blue, right? And then there's the eyes, which you also again just are completely drowned out in shadow, and it's just hard to read anything there. Like if you want to make him look a little bit more scary, kind of show off some sorrow in his eyes, like he doesn't know what's happening to him. So I kind of made his eyes a bit more milky. And now what I'm doing, I'm going to go back to the previous layer and get those edges back. But now what I'm doing is I'm just kind of just bringing in a highlight. And then you might want to add an expression, maybe an expression of like just torment or something like that. Complete opposite of what we just looked at with the sunshine. Instead of this is America, this is critique. Okay, and then really delicately, I'm going to try to erase away the milky stuff I added and try to get out a pupil. This is America. Okay. Just this gentle touch of a pupil. I'm going to just get the dodge tool and just outline around it ever so slightly. He's under a top-down lighting, I believe. So I'm just gonna, you're kind of like cheating your way out of actually rendering any specific feature. Eduardo. It's Eduardo, right? Yeah. So what you want to do is reveal a little bit more light, get some more definition in the nose. Pick up some of that light in the background. I mean, you cast a shadow here. It just feels like he's drowning in shadow. You can't really tell what's going on. So I'm going to just raise some values up and go into shadows. Raise those up too. Just don't drown it too much. And then you've got that pink going on. I'm going to move it over into like just there. It's a little bit more purple. I think we do need some space, like some light behind him. So I'm just using dodge tool on shadow. And it'll help diffuse some of this. It'll bring some out. Just look at that. We're getting a lot back. And it's kind of looking more clammy, you know? More dead. And then I'm just gonna grab the just do that. Bring in some light there. A little bit of bounce light on the nose. I swear to God, I thought I just saw the maggot move. What the heck? I fully looked in that direction too. I was like, what? That's the trick of the eye. So I'm just bringing some space for the upper lip that is no longer there, but, you know, just to add some space there. I'm going to get dodge tool on highlights now. And, I'm just going to think about areas that are wet. And then just darken that a little bit. As for the teeth, they look really, really boring. If you want to do something else with the teeth, you might want to just make the tongue a bit, like add more light accessing the inside of the mouth. And that might, you know, set it up so that we can get a bit more anatomy out of that. Because the teeth are just perfectly sharp silhouettes against dark space, and there's nothing really they're offering the image. A little nasty ripple in the tongue. And he's just like, bleh. And I'm just gonna shade out his tongue and then dodge tool them. But don't be a noob. Don't use dodge tool to render everything you do. Don't be a stupid noob. Get desaturate and follow up with, I'm so sorry I said that. I just really fucking hate dodge tool sometimes. Get that desaturate, that sponge tool, and put it on desaturate and follow up. Everywhere where I laid down dodge tool, I'm desaturating, because light doesn't need all this color fireworks enhancement. Light is sometimes perfectly desaturated. And then I'm just going to smudge. I'm going to smudge some areas that are a little bit more molded together. And finally, I'm going to try to, and I'm not going to do a perfect job at this because he is a bit charred. I'm just going to try to get his silhouette out. And what that's going to do is just, again, reignite him as the focal point. Shit. And then we're going to just have a bit more intrigue there. So it's not perfectly black. Because you're just cheating yourself out of a, you know, out of a decent composition. Out of what you need in terms of focal point. Just having a kind of setup where you don't, you know, where you're not accountable for rendering, or no, it's just like it's like a scapegoat kind of setup. Where you have a perfectly black background. Darken. And just darkening towards the top, darkening around the sides, but we still have his silhouette there, doing a lot of the work. And I'm just going to raise some of this. Some inexperienced artists use dodge tool to try to introduce a wider value range without understanding what the underlying values are supposed to be. There's that. There's that way of saying it. Or don't be a pleb, noob. I'm just putting a little bit more of the dome, you know, the dome of the head. If the light's coming from the top down and that nose shadow is being cast down, then that means that we need a nice light towards the top. And suddenly we have a wonderful intact geometric core shadow working here for us, which is really nice. I'm just going to make sure it recedes properly with the eraser on soft brush. As for the background color, I mean, I recommend you do something else. Anything else with the background, just try to go for something like a little bit more gross, you know, maybe green. Let's see what happens. You know, just like go a little bit crazy with those colors. Like that looks pretty cool. Just something like that, like some random ass, you know, crap everywhere. You know, random colors. Nothing is perfectly soft or melted together. Actually, I really like those edges. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the before and after. So don't just drown out your images like that and then hope for something to read, because you've drowned out all the information. And grayscales are the scales of gray, the many grays that we have, the beautiful flesh grays, are content. And everything in between is just either black or white in here. You know, so I mean, it's either black or white and nothing in between, and that's not good. That's not how we do this. Alright, so before, after. If he looks more purple, I mean, you had more green, I can just shift it back. I don't mind. Before, after. Same lighting scenario, just less of that mess. And the teeth are very, very boring. Try to do something else with the teeth. Okay. Something has to be familiar. Something still has to be functional. So we still gave him an intact bone structure around his eyebrows. We gave him eyes that feel a little bit more familiar. Not completely blacked out. Yeah, so now it does look scary, exactly because he becomes familiar to us. He looks blind. He looks damaged. He looks disabled. He looks morphed. He looks mutated, and we know, you know, we can see. He doesn't just look like a monster. He looks like something that was once a human being. Okay, so I'm just okay, so for this, really quick changes just to finish off. What I'm going to do is get the sponge tool on desaturate just desaturate under the eyes, because you've kind of just oversaturated in that area. I'm just desaturating. Okay, and what I'm going to do is bring in, actually I'm going to keep desaturating because I think you have a bit too much of the, just a bit of reds going on. So let's just look at the before. Before, after. Just a bit too much pink. And what I'm going to do is erase away where we would have some of that pink. So around his nose. And now we have more variety around the mouth. Because you have to have different kinds of colors. You can't just have one continuous shade everywhere and no variations of it. Sometimes we have more pink in one area than we have, you know, more where we have more orange. Especially in Caucasian faces. Tan faces tend to have that more unified look, which is why everybody tries to tan. It does a really bad job at it. Color. Okay, so I'm just getting some of that purpley pink and just leaving it behind. Anywhere where we have some blood. A little bit more along there. And then I'm going to, because I desaturated this area, I'm going to find the green equivalent, which is just sliding. So you grab the area here with your color picker, and you don't move the color picker, you just move the slider up into green. This is more than enough green for us. So let me show you. Right, so this is the color we had before. This is the new color. Slid up into yellows. Look at how much more green that looks. And we didn't even need to use green, we just shifted away from red. And I'm just using that green here. I'm using some of that green a little bit on the forehead. Okay, and that same pink that I got from before, so the layers really pile up when I'm adjusting skin because there's just so many different layers of color. But you can just merge them all back. I'm going to grab that same exact pink and I'm going to paint in the waterline. So that green, the pink of the nose, all of that stuff adds up and makes the skin feel a lot less monochromatic, because when you guys study skin, you tend to make the skin feel extremely monochromatic. I'm also going to raise the value here under his eyelid. Oopsie. Okay, another thing I'm going to do, especially for male faces, is desaturate all along the lip line, because those are areas where hair once was, and that's going to add even more variety to the skin and the color type. You can have a bit more around the mustache and less around the face, but there is going to be some of that. A lot around the chin, just not every. Remember, it's not the whole chin that gets covered. I'm going to really, really white out the rim of the mouth. And I'm going to bring some of that white from there. A little bit more bounce light. The skin's shiny. Just going to grab some more of that pink one more time, and from a distance just I can gauge how much more pink I need around the waterline. Okay, I'm also going to desaturate around one really, really important area you guys forget, which is the eyebrows. The eyebrows are also hair. They also have areas that are under the skin. Hair doesn't grow perfectly all around. So you guys tend to you know, saturate eyebrows because they're part of a shadow. That's not how it works. Okay, so before, do you see how pink everything was? It kind of looks sunburnt. And after, you have a bit more variety. You have a bit more of a realistic skin tone. For the background color, sorry, that is my mouse. For the background color, completely desaturate that and just darken it a touch. It's a bit too dark. And then there's the fact that on the grayscale level, you haven't really graduated yet from from your forms, because you have a lot of inconsistencies with your value language here. So the sides of the temple are nearly as dark as the sides of the cheeks, which are much further away from the light, and that makes no sense. He's also bald, so he's going to have some of that greenish stuff all around the top of his head. Just there. I'm kind of overusing the soft brush here, I'm so sorry. And then there's the shadows on the cheeks, which are just altogether too dark, I think. I'm just raising those up a bit so things look a little less, you know, a little more consistent skin tone wise. This area here is too dark. Oops. Ugh. Okay, so before, a little bit too dark. Anyone have any questions? Looks overexposed with the amount of white on the face. Not sure if it was the intention. It did, yeah, it does look overexposed in the forehead, I think. But once we darken that a little bit there, I think it's okay. It passes, it's fine. Okay, so one more really important thing about skin, painting skin realistically, is about identifying areas of hydration, areas that are really, really wet. So we're going to start off with the face. I mean, of course, we're going to start off with the eyes. And I'm just going to try to get in that oily little leakage there from the eyes. A little bit more. Kind of looks really sad. He's breaking my heart. A lot more oil there on the nose. Some more little droplets. Everybody drools. We all need that lubrication so the engine works, you know? And there goes the fucking Dodge. Okay. And then a little bit on just under there. Just sweat patterns, just trying to find them. A little bit around the T-zone where we get those wonderful, lovely, beautiful pimples. Those really just conveniently placed pimples that just, you know, they're just there for the ride in case you have something to do, you know, someone to impress. You got those pimples there. And then I'm just going to get Dodge Tool really delicately. I'm not letting Dodge Tool do all the work for me. I'm going to follow up with it, because see that nasty pink that you get? It's just too much pink. It's too much saturation. Dodge Tool illuminates and saturates. So be very careful with it. And I'm just trying to do that here. And then Sponge Tool on desaturate. And anywhere where I use Dodge Tool, I'm following up with desaturation. Okay. So just don't want to raise that up too high. I feel like the nose is a little dark. I feel like you really need to think about the core shadow here for the nose, because you've carried the core shadow up. It should have just cut off. Yes, he has a button nose, but that should have been the cutoff point right there. And then there's the fact that the nose itself is just way too dark. You have a lot of contrast here, and the cast shadow considering that you had a light environment that was, you know, pretty light, you had a pretty dark cast shadow there. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to leave it like this. I hope you can fix it as well. So, darken. Okay. Sharpen. Okay, so let's take a look at the before again. Before, a little too pink, sunburnt, monochromatic. After, more variety, realistic skin tone. You don't even have to have the blush for the guy. He kind of looks like he's drunk. You don't even need that extra little bit of blush. The light at the top of the head, I would keep working on it because I kind of just flattened it a little bit by raising the value. But you still need that, you know, lighter toward the top effect. Okay. All right. So that's it for today, actually. I don't have time to look at this. I'll probably look at it next time. But thank you everyone for joining today. Thank you everyone for watching. I will see you guys on Thursday. Bye everyone.